Hello and welcome back to reading The Rebels because I can't afford audiobooks. So my name is Nadia Sayapin. I am the author of this lovely work, as you would know if you've listened to the other 40 something chapters. And I don't know if there's any trigger warnings for you here. I don't know. I don't remember. If there are any, I'll have them listed down below. So, without further ado, let's get into chapter 47. Hope. I looked up, shocked to hear my name, even from my cousin, as she walked into my room and closed the door. I need to get away for a while, Sirius continued. I can't. She shook her head. I can't concentrate. I just keep seeing them. Okay. She looked surprised at my quick agreement. Got anywhere you want to go? It had been a week since the battle, a week and 2 days since the girls died, and the ground to the south, the site of the battle, had a damned army camped on it, while patrols scoured the area, even going so far as to burn old-growth forest. We'd talked about the raid on Salem, trying to figure out what went wrong, how the girls got caught, and what we could do to prevent it ever happening again. What we came up with was that we needed fighters to have a modicum of self-preservation and to follow orders. Sirius had given them instructions, but the girls had disobeyed in order to plant a bomb in the university that Dorothy used as barracks. Anywhere that isn't here, Sirius replied, walking restlessly around my room. I just need out. Well, I was thinking about doing a quick run into the valley, get some supplies, truck stuff, maybe blow up a patrol to get the army out of the mountains. Small shit. Me, a driver, and you if you want. And if you're not going to do something stupid. She thought about it, cocking her head to the side. Yeah, I could do that. When you want to leave? We bringing Phoenix? Tomorrow works. I'm hoping I can find a few more bras too, since the tannery's offerings aren't too frequent or too comfortable yet. I scratched under my arms and between my breasts for the umpteenth time. And no, Phoenix ain't coming. She's sticking around to help Olivia, Sam, and the kids. They're having a private funeral for Kitten tomorrow. I still found it hard to believe that dynamic woman was gone. Then bring it. I cannot believe you're going without me! Dereva glared up at me from her bed, her purple bandage visible through her white shirt. You don't go anywhere without me! She barely held back tears glittering through the fury, one fist clenched at her side. Eleanor would kick my ass if I tried to take you with me right now, I explained again. So wait till I'm better! The hills are crawling with Steve right now anyway! I grimaced, shaking my head. They're pretty sure we're in these hills somewhere. I want to distract them. Plus, you know the damage the vehicles took last week. I need stuff. But... I shook my head. Nope. I'm not getting on Eleanor's bad side for anything. And your mama, when we find her, will kill me. For all the things Anansi's done, at least. So what's dying one more time? The girl wheedled. I laughed. No. And if you keep this up, I'm going to send Eleanor in. Ah! The girl waved her uninjured arm irritably. She was cute with her face all scrunched and grumpy and her hair a wild halo around her head. She'd make my life hell if I told her so, though. Send her in, then. I need help brushing my hair anyway. Brat, she mumbled under her breath. Oh my God, Sirius groaned one evening 3 days later. Why did I let you talk me into this? Because we need bras. Yours must be about ready to break. Mine had broken over a week ago in Salem, and now I had to use bandages to keep my tits under control. To say that finding another bra was approaching an obsession would be an understatement, and we got to do this while dodging Steve. We had taken the time earlier to drop a landmine and got Steve to drive over it. Even though it meant we'd spent the rest of the day running, it pulled patrols out of the mountains and away from the lair. I reclined on my blanket and a foam pad, staring up at the patchy clouds through the leaves of a cherry tree. Ripe cherries dangled from its branches, which meant my birthday had passed. I closed my eyes, drifting off to sleep after the exertions of the day. There was a typo in there. A noise had my eyes snapping open without me moving another muscle. I carefully eased my blanket aside, grateful the heavy wool didn't make a sound, and laid a hand on my rifle lying next to me. The noise sounded again, a faint rustle, far more than we expected from wild animals. A few feet away, at the base of a tree, I saw a tiny movement as Sirius turned over, getting a hand on her own weapons. In this situation, Sirius was the best possible person to have on your side. At night, her poor eyesight didn't matter, while all the skills she'd developed to be a quality scout became even more valuable. After all, she had the best ears in the lair, even down to identifying how far away a person was. She disappeared to the left, I went right, and High Tide, our driver for the week, found a safe spot by the rolling under the truck. The rustling continued, moving slowly toward the last place I saw Sirius. I followed the sound, slipping through the night, holding the rifle with the barrel pointed to the ground, ready to come into action. I made out darker shadows, their faces paler blobs against the irregularities of the bushes. 2 taller shapes, 3 shorter ones, looking about the size of children. Moving slowly, I slung my rifle over my shoulder, then crept up to the closest adult-sized shape. Breathing out in preparation for a fight, I stepped up suddenly, looping my right arm under his and my left around his throat. With a quick heave, I straightened, tightening my arms so that my victim dangled haplessly, right arm flailing in the air, the left struggling futilely to get a grip on me. The person let out a strangled shout, and Sirius leaped out of... Wow, I'm doing great today. Jay? No. Ahem. The person let out a strangled shout, and Sirius leaped out at the other tall figure, dropping it handily by stomping its foot and punching it in the face. The kids hit the ground immediately, arms covering their heads, whimpers filling the night. "Who are you?" I growled. "What are you doing here?" I loosened my grip on my captive's throat. "You're not them?" The man at Sirius's feet sounded confused. "The Liberation Army? Or the Corps?" "Nope," Sirius said cheerfully. She put her foot on the man's back and leaned on it. "We're their worst nightmare." Very melodramatic, thank you. I rolled my eyes, unseen in the dark, and tightened my grip. "Still waiting!" We're from Salem," my captive, a man, gasped. "We escaped, I swear!" "There we go," I grinned. "One problem. Why should we believe you?" "Have the soldiers ever brought kids out of Salem?" my captive asked. I looked down at the kids, crying a little louder now. "Very good," I said approvingly. "Very quick thinking. What do you think, Sirius?" "Sounds good enough to give him a chance, Captain." Sirius stepped back. "While we keep a damn close eye on him, at least." Once back at our camp, I got a tiny fire going in the cook stove, just enough to heat some water. The poor kids were freezing, and the men asked if we could give them something to warm the kids up. The dim light from the stove showed us the gaunt, hungry faces of 2 men in their mid to late 20s and 3 kids, a boy and 2 girls. The men had enough similarities that I figured them for brothers or cousins, and the kids obviously belonged to one or the other of them. "Is that chocolate?" a young voice asked in awe. "Yes, it is." I looked up from the tin mug and handed it to the kid. "Be careful, it's hot." The girl accepted the mug reverently, holding the handle with one hand and pulling her sleeve over the other to protect it from the mug. I estimated her age at 7 or 8, though the dirt and poor lighting made it hard to tell. "Thank the nice lady, Lena," one of the men croaked. He swiped a quick hand over his eyes while the girl blurted out a hasty, "Thank you," before putting her nose back to the mug. High Tide, who'd managed to find enough mugs for everyone, as well as blankets and warmer clothes from the second box in the truck bed, got another stove working. I passed out mugs of chocolate to the other 2 kids, maybe 3 and 5, and tea for the men. I flashed them a grin. "Sorry, we run out of coffee as fast as we can get it." Taking a page from High Tide's book, I got more water onto heat. Might as well feed these poor suckers. While we waited for the pots to boil and Sirius to get back from scouting, I looked at the men. 20 questions time. They didn't try to avoid me, didn't cringe, though one looked desperate. Maybe we want to know some things about you first, one man said belligerently. Doesn't work like that. Not yet. I stared the man down. We found you, and we're your best hope right now. But we need to know if we can even remotely trust you. The man sighed heavily, then nodded, looking at the kids. My name... Not that. I held up my hand. We don't do names, in case you didn't notice. I want to know how you got out, who you're trying to avenge or whatever, whose kids these are, and while you're telling me all that, I'm also going to try to decide if you're lying. So, go. Okay. The man drew the word out, thinking. This is my younger brother, he said, gesturing to the man I'd collared. The Munchkins are mine. As for how we got out, he shook his head. I don't know if you noticed, but there was a fire in Salem nearly 2 weeks ago. I nodded, and High Tide very carefully didn't look at either man. We managed to sneak out in all the commotion. My kids were playing near the fence about a month ago and found a section that'd been cut. It was only held to the pole with zip ties. I pursed my lips and tried to look innocent. We didn't have anything strong enough to cut through the fence, but zip ties? Yeah, we could manage that. We'd already been collecting a bit of food, packing it away, hoping for an opportunity. Though we've kind of run out of food. This last he said wryly as his stomach rumbled on cue. The pots came to a boil, and High Tide and me began dumping broken pieces of spaghetti into them before putting the lids back on for it all to cook. I'm looking for my wife, he admitted. His brother began to protest, only to be hushed. We don't really have a lot of options here, he muttered to him, then back to us. She was taken by soldiers months ago. I saw them take her out of Salem on a truck heading north, so we decided to go that way too. Until... He waved a hand around, indicating us and everything. Could you describe your wife? High Tide asked carefully, stirring her pot. Just so we know who we're looking for. She's about my age. The man leaned forward eagerly. She had dyed blonde hair, but it's been growing out, so it'd probably be browner now. Hazel eyes, cute little nose, and a great ass. And the disposition of an angry bear, the brother mumbled. I choked, then coughed into my elbow. Holy fucking shit! I giggled, staring from one man to the other. High Tide had a hand over her mouth, eyes moist, as if she were watching a romantic part in a dramatic movie. What? What? The man demanded, looking back and forth between me and High Tide. His tone and actions dragged the kids' attention away from their hot chocolate, and now they watched, interest in their little faces. What do you know? Has she, maybe, got a tattoo? High Tide sounded like she was being strangled. A paw print, a bear's paw print on her left shoulder blade. It's a family joke. Have you seen her? Have you heard of her? Desperation shone on his face, even in the dim light of the stoves. At that moment, Sirius walked out of the trees to the south, hands relaxed at her sides, and jerked a thumb behind her. All clear. High Tide and the man ignored her, and I watched them both, waving a hand for Sirius to hush. This was better than a movie. I wished I had popcorn. High Tide leaned forward, ignoring her bubbling pot. Well, the thing is... I whipped the lids off and poured powdered soup inside each, darting glances at them to make sure I didn't miss anything. We do know her, High Tide continued. The man gasped, looking ready to leap up and run to find her. We rescued her a couple months back, and she's been looking for you. We call her Bear. The man gave a strangled laugh, tears shining in his eyes, and the oldest kid whispered, Daddy, do they know Mommy? He hugged her tightly. Yes, they do, he choked out, and they'll take us to her. High Tide had tears tracking down her cheeks that she mopped away with both hands. So... we don't care that we're safe? Sirius interjected. Anybody want to fill me in? Sirius, I said, switching between the pots, stirring irregularly. Meet Bear's family. Holy shit! Fuck yeah! You're back! Eleanor exclaimed, rushing out of the lair to meet us. I was beginning to get worried. Did you have much trouble with Steve? Where's Sirius? She stopped in front of us abruptly, skirts swirling about her legs. How are you, High Tide? Why are you looking like that? Oh, never mind me! High Tide waved her hand impatiently. Where's Bear? Without waiting for an answer, she strode to the open bunker door and bellowed, Bear! I raised my eyebrows, impressed. I'd never heard anything louder than, well, loud talk from her. Seems she'd been learning from Sarge. In answer to High Tide's summons, Bear exited the lair at the head of a train. She looked about the clearing, arms crossed, clearly unimpressed with the cloudy days. What's so important then? She snapped. Babe? A male voice called, choking. Bear looked again and saw the man, her husband, rushing from the trees uphill. She made an incoherent sound and raced to him. They collided close enough to the lair for everyone to get a good view, clutching each other tightly. Behind them, at a more sedate pace, Sirius and the brother-in-law, Gummy, brought the kids. When Bear's kids saw her, they broke free and raced over, sobbing fitfully. I turned away from the reunion then and helped Eleanor chivvy the rest into the lair to give the long-separated family a little privacy. I did notice we didn't have a single adult with a dry eye. So, Phoenix dropped back to walk with me. Boring trip then? Yep. Tell me. I jerked a thumb behind us as we walked down the stairs. Aside from that, I now have a frickin' garden hose in my truck. Her mouth dropped open. What? Yeah. I had to perform emergency surgery on my baby. I didn't think it'd actually work. I wailed a little. I don't know how long it'll last, and we never found time to find bras, and this thing is killing me. I scratched at the bandages, tying my boobs down. Why did you need a hose? Because Steve blew a fucking big hole in my truck! I was definitely wailing now. Language! Snapped Eleanor. Sorry! I lowered my voice. Oh, and you don't have to worry about bras anymore, Phoenix piped up. The tannery finally has a comfortable working bra. While the rest of the crowd went back to whatever they'd been doing, Phoenix, Eleanor, and me walked the twisting tunnels to the tannery. I pulled the leather lacing tight and tied it closed. The bra looked like a crop top with cross straps on the back and lacing on the front. I'd shrugged it on easier than a shirt, while the metal grommets on the front provided easy lacing. I bounced around, did some jumping jacks, and a sloppy handstand. I looked down to make sure the girls were firmly in place and snorted in amusement. Amana, darling, I called through the curtain to the group waiting outside. Si, mi capitan? I turned to face her as she entered and watched her eyes fasten on my boobs. Lips pursed in a soundless whistle. Yes, about that. Who designed the bra? She passed the query back. Al, she returned. I stared at the ceiling, trying to remember Al. Banished de la cochina, she whispered. Right! The guy who broke or killed everything we didn't want broken or dead. So clumsy he'd sprained an ankle twice just walking outside the lair. Fell down 3 steps last month. Man had talent at this, though. I had to give him that. Phoenix stepped impatiently around Amana. What's taking so long? She looked me up and down and gave me a wolf whistle with a little leer. Oh yeah, I grinned. Al did it. He made a bra that keeps the girls in place, feels like Tom Carrington is personally holding my boobs, and will give even the flattest-chested girl some cleavage. From the looks of you, you were never flat. Phoenix grinned, eyes never leaving my boobs. I looked down too, and my hands automatically came up to cup the girls. This thing is so frickin' comfortable. I shook my head, squeezing gently, the leather smooth and soft under my rough skin. A fucking plus, Al! I shouted through the doorway. Thank you, the young man shouted back. Amana giggled, still standing in the doorway, looking back and forth from room to hallway. I shared a significant look with Phoenix, but neither of us mentioned the uncharacteristic giggle. Relationships fell under Eleanor and Lavender's purview. I didn't worry about those things until Eleanor sicked me on some poor bastard. Phoenix wiggled her eyebrows. So, Tom Carrington personally holding your boobs, huh? Maybe I should get me one of those. He's such a freaking dreamboat, isn't he? We sighed, staring into space as we contemplated the British actor rocketing his way to stardom. The man was gorgeous, and if even half of what they said about him was true, the man's character was almost as good as his looks. Well, I'd never wish this shit on anyone. If I were to suddenly meet him, I wouldn't complain. Phoenix grinned wickedly. Hey! The shout came from the hallway. Are you done yet? We got work to do! Yeah, I shouted back, scooping up my shirt and sliding it on. High Tide led the team in, and I noticed Al, a thin young man with pleasant features, pause in the doorway to exchange a few words with Amana before approaching me. Do you, he swallowed nervously. Want us to fix the, he cupped his hands in front of his chest. Cleavage? He squeaked. Nah, I laughed. Who cares? Not like anyone's ever gonna see it. Because this last bit is short, I'm going to put chapters 48 and the epilogue in here too. So, chapter 48. So, Shrike had a few interesting things to add, River said casually after giving us the most recent report. We had the usual useless room lineup of Phoenix, Eleanor, Driver, Lavender, Sarge, and me. The only one missing was Sirius, but she was out dealing with her grief and running an errand for me. River had already given us the latest about troops, but Shrike's privileged position gave us a wealth of new information, like the fact that the guy running the entire West Coast operation was pissed that Quan Jay hadn't wiped us off the board yet. If this was the quality of information that Shrike had on our first contact, I couldn't wait to hear what else she'd learn. She said it's not essential to any of our usual stuff, River continued. She just thought we'd like to know. Well, Phoenix urged, don't keep us in the dark. Spill! River took her time, enjoying this. Interesting. She didn't usually make a fuss, just delivering the news and telling us her observations. I wonder what had her looking so gleeful. She walked over to lean casually against the table. There's a few rumors in Salem, she began. The soldiers think a demon's been raised against them. We laughed. A demon. Sure. Apparently, the same night Thunder and Lightning died, they experienced losses that had nothing to do with our traps. My smile died and I turned my head away, looking at the wall, biting my cheek. A patrol was miles away from the trap ground, River continued, relishing the story, camping out to continue hunting us the next day. The first night, the patrol never reported in. Their bodies were found, a single clean stab wound in each man, supplies ransacked, and no sign of an intruder. The next night, 2 more patrols were taken out. In one case, a guard was left alive. Apparently, the men were killed while he was on watch. The day after that was the battle at the ridge. All they have to go on is the words, courtesy of captain, carved into the ground at one site. River sat back, and I could feel the eyes of everyone present boring into me. I refused to look up, tears welling, and my shoulders began to shake. From a distance, I heard Eleanor ushering everyone else out of the room, shutting the door behind Driver, the last one out. Do you want to talk about it? Eleanor asked gently. She rested a hand on my shoulder, but that only made me cry harder. Eleanor bent, wrapping her arms around me, and I turned into her, sobbing against her shoulder. I didn't even think at the time, I cried. I just, lightning and thunder, and I was so mad. I killed them like they were nothing, and... Eleanor held me as I cried like a child. Epilogue, the present. I found out later that Strike also knew how much Thunder and Lightning had told, which was everything. Hope paced across the stage, paying little attention to the crowd beyond the lights now. Lost in the past, words tumbled out, eager to be spoken now that she'd given them an outlet. The thing is, they didn't actually know where the lair was on a map. The soldiers were too hasty. If they'd left the girls able to walk... Hope broke off abruptly, realizing the topic should go no further. Her lips twisted in a pained smile. The best part is, they all assumed we were men. I wonder what they'd have done differently if they knew. Hope turned and stared blindly out, seeing mountains, valleys, and trees, and the faces of the dead marching past. In the end, it didn't matter. It was too late. For all of us. Thank you for sticking with me through this entire reading of The Rebels. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I would be ever so grateful if you would pop down to Goodreads and drop a review on it. Actually, I think I have to fix that. And then next week, I will start with The Irregulars, book 2 in the trilogy. If you enjoyed that, please like, maybe subscribe. It just helps the algorithm know people are interested. And it helps the channel grow. I know I'm tiny, but everybody starts somewhere. And yeah, I really appreciate you being here for this. I am sorry for the trauma. Not sorry. Don't worry. Book 2 is worse. I will see you next week.